The Canon R5, while nice on the surface, was basically 3 ovens. They were stacked on top of each other, invented to keep an Inuit family warm in the nighttime in their ice cube home. But seems like Canon has rectified their Cripple Hammer-like abilities. We doing this already in the intro? Come on, man. I'm about to praise you. I just watched the reviews. This is good stuff. Look at you, improving You did good. I might even buy one. Congratulations on matching the Sony a7S III specs.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So the Canon R5 II and for some reason the R1 was announced. We'll talk briefly about that thing. But the R5 II, this is actually going to be a pretty positive review. We're actually on a Canon device right now. Can you even guess it? It's good. It's a good camera. So first, let me just start with why I didn't buy the original Canon R5, because I had the Sony a7S III at the time, and the R5 came out, Camera Canada lent it to us, and we tested, and I was like, damn, like I prefer the Canon look, but these damn files are so hard to edit. So that was the major drawback, was the hard to edit files. It was annoying. I was annoyed at the 8K that it was even in my camera. It's like 4K, can't we just perfect that first? 480 frames per second, then once we move beyond that, we reach for 1,000. In my world, high frame rates outweigh resolution any day. If your camera can do only HD, but it's 1,000 frames per second versus your 8K 30 frames, it's like, go to sleep 8 times. So Canon seems to have rectified a lot of these problems. Now first, let's start with 8K 60 RAW. That is not rectified. It's up your rectum is the thermometer that needs to measure the temperature of your computer trying to handle those files. The 8K, Canon has the worst RAW codecs I've ever tried, because usually RAW is very easy to edit. That's one of the points of it. It's not compressed. Your computer doesn't have to do much to read it. So my Blackmagic's doing 12-bit RAW. The Nikon Z6 III, it's like boom, 6K 60 RAW. I'm gliding along that timeline, floating. So Canon, I just remember the 8K 24p RAW. It was like, oh my God, I can't even play the damn thing. How am I going to edit these files? And I had to make proxies, and it ruined my life. And those file sizes are big. So it's like, that's not a selling point for me. What is a selling point, however, is you now have your little XF AVCS codecs that were nice in the R5C and the Canon C70. And I was always wondering, like, why don't you put those in your regular cameras? It's easy to edit files. They're good times. And now they're in there. So now my major complaint about Canon has been rectified. The hard to edit files, except in your best frame rate for some reason. There are some strange decisions in here. So you have 4K 120 and HD 240, neither in RAW. You can do 4K 60 in RAW, but it's line skippy. And how good is that? If you have 4K 120, why would you ever use 4K 60 in your camera? I don't even see the reasons. But it just goes to show you, man, like Sony a7S III, we were doing that. We've been doing it for years. It's like, finally the competition is catching up somewhat. The Z6 III does those frame rates and ups it in other areas. 6K 60 RAW, it's like, their 4K 120 is RAW, but it's cropped. I don't know, your sideways stepping match. It's a match. And so like now Canon has matched it. Finally, we got HD 240. The R3 had it. So you're matching that for similar money. What do you even get more than the R3? It's smaller and lighter. But like that also did the 4K 20. Oh, wow. But here are the reasons why I think this could be even better than the a7S III in some ways. Canon color science, as we're witnessing right now, it's a thing of beauty. Even on this thing of high end. It's a high end mirrorless, trust me. The R5 Mark III. You both do 4K 120 HD 240, but Canon does C-Log 2 now. I think that outdoes S-Log 3. 16 stops at dynamic range. I'd like to see a little xylitol. That's not the word. Oh, that little chart thing that Gerald does. He takes a picture of it, then he measures it. But that's basically it. I mean, you're getting a Sony a7S III with Canon color science and better IBIS and more dynamic range. Probably worse autofocus. You can put all these marketing gimmicks in that spec sheet and it's not going to match up to what we had in the Sony a6000. So, like, be real with your life. But you're catching up. You got a new battery again for some reason. How annoying would that be? It's like the same size battery, but they keep making it just a little bit different, a little better. You had that new battery like 8 years ago, I bet, and you're just slowly changing it to annoy us. I remember selling the EOS R with the 2. I got the newest ones, the newest type of battery, the NH, I think, at the end. And I was like, damn, I don't even want to sell those. Those are so much better than the other ones. And now they're already irrelevant. So it's like, way to pollute our earth. One thing I like is you did not put the stupid cinema menu like you did on the R5C. It's two separate things, photo menu and cinema menu. And then in your video, you'd lost all the fun things like animal eye detect because that was in the photo menu for some reason. The cinema menus are crap. Like there was no custom modes, there was nothing. Whereas now, okay, you're normal. There's still many unanswered questions though, like you have false color, that's cool. You have waveforms. Can you use these things at the same time? Can you do zebras and peaking and certain things? Just for some reason, Canon doesn't let you do them all at the same time, whereas Sony is like peaking, zebras, yeah, whatever you want. Put it on there. Histogram, we got no waveforms. I ain't waving at anybody. I'll wave at your mom. She'd wave back. When it comes to eye autofocus in video, that new thing where you look through the viewfinder and whatever you're looking at is in focus, Canon can read your eye and scan it and take your money from your bank probably with that information, but it doesn't work in video, so thanks for nothing. That could have been cool. Oh, animal eye, I'm looking at it. How come it's not doing it? You're blinking and shit. It doesn't work. It's a photo thing. Thanks for nothing. So I gotta be honest with you, I was holding on to my Canon EF lenses just in case this R5 II blew me away, and then I would have the 24mm 1.4, the 85 1.2, and the 135 Tony 2. 3 lenses for 3 scenarios. So is the Canon R5 II tempting me away from my Sony a7S III and the Nikon Z6 III? It's pricey as hell. I mean, would I rather have it? You marry the lens. The system is the lenses. That's what you fall in love with. And then maybe you'll get a camera one day to wield them. So like I fell in love with Nikon prime lenses for wildlife. Boom, you're my wildlife system. Sony has a bunch of Zeiss lenses that autofocus. You got Voigtlander glass. Canon does not allow third-party companies to make lenses unless for their APS-C mount. Sigma, you can chip in some coins for that. They're a very strange system of like super high-end budgets or high-end glass that has 0 3D pop anyway, but super sharp, 50mm 1.2. Wow, look at that, 0 pop. Versus your budget stuff that has no place in our world. It's not like 0 3D pop, but also the sharpness, and it's just plasticky and like weird things where it's zooming out and you can't put a filter on it, and the distortion corrections. Like Canon lenses, you don't get into RF for the lenses, you get in to adapt your old EF glass, which is superior to anything. So you're there, it's just, now you're bulky. So while the R5 II is a fantastic camera, it's just so expensive, and I think a lot of us have switched to Sony or Nikon or Fuji a long time ago, or Panasonic even. Like people were sick of Canon just taking so long to catch up, intentionally crippling their cameras. I don't know, man, like it's a good camera. It's too bad you didn't release this one when the R5 was out. It's like so many little things. You could have had the XF ABC codec in the R5. That would have been easy to edit files. HD 240, why wasn't that in there? You got 4K 120, how do you not be able to do HD 240? It's in. You could do it. The battery, you already had that. There's a lot of stuff, like you added false color, and these are things that you could firmware into the old one. A lot of things here. Just the 8K 60 RAW, I could see, okay, you weren't capable of that, but nobody needs that. It's like, I don't know, man. C-Log 2, why wasn't that in there? It could have been. All these things are just things they withheld, and then they finally gave it to you, and we're like, wow, wait, why didn't you just give it to me for my last birthday? What the R5 II is wow, it's Satan's camera. It's $666.87. You have to ask Satan for an allowance increase to get this camera. So like, that's really expensive. That's 2 Nikon Z6 IIIs. You got one for wildlife, one for YouTube, a couple lenses with that probably. Not really, unless you go to Camera Canada. Tell them Camera Conspiracies sent you. And then you're like, you have a deal? And they're like, no, we don't, but we have stuff for sale. Let's all go tonight. And yes, this camera is halfway to overheating, whatever it is. You'll find out soon enough. But it's pricey. It's like we've already switched. We already have better options. The Z6 III has RAW, but it's much easier to edit. 4K 120 RAW, you didn't do that. You decided to cripple it. Leave that out for the Mark III. I'm just sick of Canon's games. I'm waiting to wield my EF lenses on something. And maybe Megadap is sending me a little Canon EF to Z autofocus adapter. Hopefully that thing works pretty reliably. And then it's like, yeah. But like, nice job, Canon. You've done well. So we all moved on. And like, we're still waiting for someone to beat the A7S III. And it's crazy. Like, how good was that thing in 2020? 4 years later, we're waiting. We're waiting for someone to like go beyond 4K 120. I know the R5 had it first. Shut your mouth. Nobody used it. Your 8K bullshit. Sony made it real. And like, you could play the files. And it was great. Boom. And HD 240. You missed that part. When it comes to the R1, no one cares. You're shooting sports. Go get a real job. You beer belly freak. Oh look, my team won. I'm happy. Oh, they lost. I'm sad. My emotions are tied to the outer world. Grow up. Like, yay. The A1 destroys it. The A9 III also does. That's your flagship. We've been waiting that long for that thing? What even is that? Who would buy that? It's so expensive. How much Canadian? Like $40,000. These flagship, like, professional sports things. That guy's still using a 1DX2. All those guys on the sidelines waiting for a football to the crotch. Like, who cares about them? They're EF glass. We're not moving on. We're not upgrading yet. They never will. They're 97 years old. They have bad hips. They can't even carry the thing. But it's cool. It's a cool camera. I want one. Doesn't match my A7S III at all. Like, barely matching it. Didn't beat it. 6K 60 RAW. There's my Nikon. Congrats on matching my Nikon for way half of a third of a month. Money-wise. It's a sentence. I'll leave. How you doing? How was this? Quality good? I know it was. It's Canon. You donating Bitcoin? It really is going to overheat, isn't it? Oh, boy. Subscribe for my next channel.